You know, folks, relationships are complicated. They're beautiful, messy, and require constant work. But there's one thing that can destroy a relationship faster than almost anything else. Infidelity. Right now, at this very moment, someone's world is being turned upside down by it. We're gonna dive deep into this thing we call cheating. We're gonna talk about the why, the how, and the devastating impact it has on everyone involved. It's time to shine a light on the dark corners of relationships and understand the motivations behind betrayal. This isn't about judgment, this is about understanding. This is about giving you the tools to recognize the warning signs, protect your own heart, and build stronger, more fulfilling relationships. So buckle up, because we're about to take a hard look in the mirror and uncover the truth about why people cheat, and why it's a path you don't want to go down. Let's get real, folks. A lot of times, infidelity starts long before anyone strays physically. It begins with a seed of discontent, a feeling that something's missing in the relationship. Now, this isn't about blaming anyone. It's about understanding the root of the problem. We're bombarded with these fairy tale romances in movies and books, these picture-perfect relationships that set unrealistic expectations. We start believing that our partners should just know what we need, that love should be effortless. And when reality falls short, disappointment sets in. See, that gap between our idealized fantasies and the reality of our relationships, that's where the trouble begins. We start focusing on what's missing instead of appreciating what we have. And that, my friends, is a slippery slope. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we reconcile the fantasies with the reality? That's what we're going to dig into next. We've got to stop buying into these Hollywood fairy tales. Love isn't about grand gestures and sweeping romance all the time. Real love, lasting love, is about understanding, compromise, and a whole lot of hard work. When we cling to these unrealistic expectations, we set ourselves up for disappointment. We start looking for fulfillment outside the relationship, thinking someone else can give us that fairy tale we crave. But here's the kicker. That fairy tale doesn't exist. Not in the long run. Every relationship has its ups and downs, its challenges and triumphs. It's about navigating those rough waters together, as a team. So, ditch the fantasies, folks. Embrace the beauty of imperfection in your relationships. Because real love, with all its complexities and imperfections, is far more rewarding than any fairy tale. Let's talk about something we don't always want to admit, the thrill of the forbidden. There's an undeniable excitement that comes with breaking the rules, with stepping outside the lines. And for some, that thrill is a powerful motivator for infidelity. It's not always about being unhappy in the relationship, no. Sometimes it's about the adrenaline rush, the feeling of being desired, the intoxicating power of secrecy. It's about pushing boundaries and testing limits, even if it means hurting someone you care about. Now, this isn't about condoning this behavior, not at all. It's about understanding the psychology behind it. Because when we understand the why, we're better equipped to address the problem. So, how do we reconcile this need for excitement with the commitment of a monogamous relationship? That's the million-dollar question. Look, I get it. Life can get routine, predictable. We crave excitement, novelty. But seeking that excitement through infidelity, that's like playing with fire. You might get a momentary thrill, but you're risking burning everything down. The key is to find healthy ways to inject excitement into your relationship. Try new things together, step outside your comfort zones as a couple. Remember what sparked that initial attraction and find ways to rekindle that flame. Communication is key here, folks. Talk to your partner, share your needs and desires. You might be surprised at their willingness to explore new things with you, to bring back that spark. Remember, a strong, healthy relationship is built on trust, respect, and a shared commitment to growth. Don't throw it all away for a fleeting moment of excitement. The real thrill, the lasting fulfillment, comes from building a life together, brick by brick. You know, folks, relationships are a lot like houses. You gotta keep up with the maintenance. If you don't, things start to fall apart. It's the same with emotional connections. You let the communication slip, You stop prioritizing each other, and before you know it, you're living in separate worlds under the same roof. This emotional disconnect, it's a breeding ground for infidelity. When someone's feeling lonely, neglected, unheard in their own relationship, they start looking for that connection somewhere else. It ain't right, but it's human nature. We live in a fast-paced world, lots of demands on our time. Jobs, kids, errands, it all adds up. But you know what? That's not an excuse to neglect your relationship. You gotta make time for each other, even if it's just 15 minutes a day to sit down, look each other in the eye and really talk. And I'm not talking about whose turn it is to take out the trash. I'm talking about real, meaningful conversation. Sharing your thoughts, your dreams, your fears. That's how you keep that emotional connection strong and keep those temptations at bay. Loneliness, let me tell you, it's a powerful drug. And when it takes root in a relationship, it can drive people to do things they never thought they would. We're talking about seeking comfort, attention, and validation in the arms of someone else. See, when you're starved for affection, for understanding, for that basic human need to feel seen and heard, the temptation to find it elsewhere can be overwhelming. It's like being parched in the desert and seeing a mirage of a shimmering oasis. You know it's probably not real, but you're desperate enough to chase it anyway. And the worst part is, most people don't even see it coming. They're so caught up in their own lives, their own problems, that they don't realize their partner's drowning, right next to them. They're missing all the warning signs, the withdrawal, the resentment, the lack of intimacy. That's why it's crucial to be present in your relationship. To pay attention to your partner's emotional needs. Because when you let loneliness fester, it creates a void that begs to be filled. And sometimes, that void gets filled by someone who shouldn't be there. Look, relationships are a lot like a garden. In the beginning, everything's blooming, it's exciting, there's butterflies, you're constantly tending to it. Every moment feels magical, and you can't get enough of each other. But over time, that initial spark, that honeymoon phase, it starts to fade. That's natural. That's life. The flowers don't always stay in full bloom, and the butterflies aren't always fluttering around. But the problem is, some folks just aren't prepared for that shift. They expect the garden to always look perfect without putting in the work. They start to feel like something's missing, like they're stuck in a rut. The vibrant colors seem to fade and the excitement dwindles. And that's when the doubts creep in. They begin to question everything, wondering if they've made the right choices. They start looking at other couples, other relationships, and they wonder, is that what I'm missing? They see the smiles, the laughter, and think, maybe the grass is greener over there. They start comparing their reality to some idealized version of love they've got in their head. A version that's often influenced by movies, social media, and unrealistic expectations. But let me tell you something. That grass is greener thinking, it's a dangerous game. It's a mirage, an illusion that can lead you astray. Because what they don't see is the weeds, the work, the commitment it takes to keep any relationship thriving. Every garden has its share of weeds, and every relationship has its challenges. They're so busy looking at the shiny exterior, they miss the foundation, the roots that hold everything together. Those roots are built on trust, communication, and shared experiences. And trust me, those roots, they take time, effort, and constant nurturing to grow strong. It's not about the instant gratification, but the long-term growth. So, before you go chasing after some fleeting fantasy, you need to take a good, hard look at what you've got right in front of you. Is it perfect? No. But perfection is an illusion. But is it worth fighting for? That's the question you gotta ask yourself. Because real love, the kind that lasts, is built on the foundation of commitment, understanding, and mutual respect. See, this erosion of commitment, it's a slippery slope. It starts with a little dissatisfaction, a little wondering what if. But before you know it, you're emotionally checked out, you're looking for an escape hatch. You're more invested in the fantasy of what could be than the reality of what is. And that's when you become vulnerable. You open yourself up to opportunities, to temptations, that you wouldn't have even considered before. Suddenly, that coworker who's always been a little too friendly, that old flame you reconnected with online, they start to look a whole lot more appealing. But here's the thing, you're not seeing them clearly. You're projecting all these unmet needs, these fantasies, onto them. You're not seeing the whole picture, just the idealized version your mind has created. And that's how good people make bad choices. They convince themselves that they're justified, that they deserve a little happiness, a little excitement. But let me tell you, that kind of thinking, it's a recipe for disaster. Now, here's the part that really gets me. The mental gymnastics people do to justify cheating. It's like they twist themselves into knots trying to make sense of their actions. Because deep down, most folks who cheat, they know it's wrong. They feel that pang of guilt, that nagging voice in the back of their mind. They know they're hurting their partner, betraying their trust. It's a wound that cuts deep, leaving scars that might never fully heal. But they gotta live with themselves, right? They have to face their own reflection every day. So they start spinning stories, making excuses, anything to ease that guilt. They weave a web of lies, hoping it will cushion the blow. They'll say things like, well, my partner isn't meeting my needs, or they don't understand me anymore, or they stopped paying attention to me. It's a way to shift the blame, to make themselves feel like the victim. And while that might be true, it doesn't give you a free pass to step out on them. It doesn't justify breaking the trust you've built. It's about taking responsibility for your own happiness, communicating your needs, and working through the tough times together. And if all else fails, having the courage to walk away before you betray someone's trust. It's about making the hard choices, the right choices. But instead, they choose to compartmentalize. They build walls in their mind, separating their actions from their identity. They create these separate realities in their heads. One where they're a good partner, a good person, and another where they're engaging in this secret life of betrayal. It's a delicate balance, a house of cards waiting to collapse. And it's all about protecting their own ego, their own self-image. They can't bear to see themselves as the villain in their own story. But let me tell you, that kind of self-deception, it's got a shelf life. It can't last forever. The truth always has a way of bubbling up, no matter how deep you try to bury it. The truth always has a way of bubbling up. And when it does, it's gonna blow up in your face. The fallout is inevitable. And when it does, it's gonna blow up in your face. The pain and betrayal will come to light, and the consequences will be unavoidable. See, this moral laundering, it allows people to sleep at night. But it comes at a steep price. Because every time they justify their actions, they chip away at their own integrity. They start believing their own lies, and pretty soon, they're not even sure who they are anymore. And the worst part is, it catches up with them. That guilt, that shame, it doesn't just disappear. It festers, it eats away at them from the inside out. And it affects everything: their relationships, their work, their sense of self-worth. They become masters of deception, living a double life, always looking over their shoulder. And the more they lie, the deeper they dig themselves into a hole they may never escape. The truth is, you can't outrun yourself. Sooner or later, you gotta face the music. And the longer you wait, the harder the fall. It's time to stop making excuses, to stop blaming everyone else for your choices. Own your actions. Take responsibility for the hurt you've caused. And start doing the work to rebuild the trust you've shattered. We've spent a lot of time talking about why people cheat, and believe me, it's complicated. The reasons are as varied as the people involved, and each situation is unique. We've seen how unmet expectations, the thrill of the forbidden, and the slow erosion of commitment can create a perfect storm for infidelity. These factors intertwine, creating a web of emotions and actions that can be difficult to untangle. We've talked about the mental gymnastics people use to justify their actions. the self-deception that allows them to live with themselves. It's a complex dance of rationalizations and denials that can be hard to break free from. But understanding the why isn't about making excuses. It's about gaining insight into the underlying issues that lead to such behavior. It's about facing the hard truths, about recognizing the warning signs, and most importantly, it's about doing the work to build stronger, healthier relationships. This means being proactive, not reactive, in addressing the needs and concerns of both partners. Infidelity is a symptom of deeper issues, a crack in the foundation of a relationship. These cracks can start small, but grow over time, if left unaddressed. And like any crack, if you ignore it long enough, it's going to break. The damage can become irreparable if not dealt with in a timely and thoughtful manner. But it doesn't have to be the end. There is always hope for those willing to put in the effort. It can be a wake-up call, an opportunity to reassess, to reconnect, to rebuild trust brick by brick. This process requires patience and dedication from both partners. It's not going to be easy. It takes honesty, vulnerability, and a whole lot of work. Both partners need to be committed to the process and willing to face uncomfortable truths. But if you're both willing to fight for it, to truly see each other, to communicate, to listen, to forgive, then maybe, just maybe, you can come out on the other side stronger than ever. The journey can lead to a deeper understanding and a more resilient bond. And, for those of you who want to dive deeper into the consequences of infidelity, don't miss our video, The Shocking Truth. What happens at home when she cheats? We'll delve into the emotional and practical impacts of betrayal. We'll explore the ripple effects of betrayal and how to navigate the aftermath. Understanding these dynamics can help in the healing process. Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding is the first step towards healing and growth. Equip yourself with the tools and insights needed to move forward.